Alabama.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. When he lived in Birmingham, Alabama. At that time, that was during the time when they were in the height of the civil rights movement and getting people to vote. So my grandfather, John R. Hector II, would prep people in the community of Birmingham, Alabama about voting. And so of course it started early on, teaching people in the community what to do when you got down to the register to take the test, the intelligence test, to get your voter's card. So my grandfather, great-grandfather, or my grandfather, told my father, he said, if they ask you a silly question, then you answer them with a silly question. So my father would chuckle and he would say, so I got down there and the lady asked me, she said, so what is George Washington's wife's name? So he looked at her and he pretended to think and he said, Mrs. Washington. So one of the next questions she asked her, she said, how many bubbles are in a bar of soap? And he smiled and he said, 9,689 bubbles are in a bar of soap. And we just giggled because I said, yeah, that was the silliest question. He said, they didn't know the answers. I gave him a silly question. So of course he got his voter's card. When I thought about that story, I think about now the youth and what they're going through just to be able to exercise their voters' rights. When we talked to some of our youth council that just reactivated here at the NAACP in Ventura County, we were discussing with them about voter registrations. And a lot of them where we knew that people died for the right to be able to vote, a lot of them are apprehensive about it. A lot of them feel that voting is not necessary because it doesn't matter if they vote, they don't seem to think that their vote matters. More importantly, they get frustrated with how they have to go about registering to vote. Or in some cases in Georgia, where people stand along lines just to vote. And if you, and I just recently read it, if you ask for a glass of water or someone bought you some water, you could be fined $1,000. And that was because they didn't want anyone to interfere with the vote. Right now, after 1965 of the voters' rights being signed, in 2022, we are still fighting for our voters' rights. So how do you reactivate the youth? The purpose of telling you my story of my grandfather and my father was, it actually starts in the home, which many of you probably already know that. If we are not teaching our youth about the laws, teaching our youth the importance of voting, teaching our youth why it's so important for them to be involved and be an activist, then that's where we lose them. Just as any organization, we had started noticing that a lot of them we were not able to engage. Our Youth Council of California, and I'm talking at the state level, it's probably more than 1,000 youth across California. When we get into areas like Texas, Ohio, New York, they're over 2,500 to 5,000. And I could be exaggerating, but I really don't believe so. And that's because, again, in these areas, there was a need for activism and for the Youth Council to mobilize themselves and to get out there and vote. More important to be involved in the legislation and being involved in their communities. The few that I talked about as the NAACP youth, and I wish some of them were online, they are dynamic and they all, again, started in the home. We have kids within the NAACP that are learning to write legislations, learning to write laws. In fact, the NAACP Youth Council California is now pushing for the legislation to ban the knock on the door entry. and I may be saying it wrong. The no knocking, the no knocking entering of law enforcement. They at one point did a campaign where they were showing themselves as how would the media portray me? And they got a lot of traction from it. But again, all this started within the home. And in this video, what I loved about it was the NHP took pictures and they used the social media platform, and they took a picture of how they dress normally and then how they really are. So in that case, I'm gonna use my daughter and my niece. My niece had on her little polo shirt, a cap on, and it was a picture. And she said, this is how the media would describe me if there was an incident. And then went on to tell her that she's actually an attorney. She's a stockbroker attorney working for one of the third largest stockbroking companies in the United States. And she graduated from Ohio State, UCLA, and lives in Silicon Valley. My daughter, on the other hand, showed her picture, and what you find out in her background is she's a graduate of University of Riverside, and she's a teacher, and she's currently right now preparing to take the MCAS. The point of doing that and trying to get our kids involved, it took a crisis for them to get involved. One, again, it had to start in the home. And two, and three was that they are concerned about being involved. So how do we retain them, sustain them? In the NAACP, we actually have where they go through a process called Generation X, and you can Google it, where students are selected and they're being taught to be civil rights leaders and activists. And from those, most of them go on to become what you see, like one of the young ladies who's part of President Biden's cabinet. Others have gone on to become attorneys. So most of them are going to become attorneys. And so that's how we try to retain and incite our youth to become involved in the things that are going on in the community. I hope I answered your question.
You did, and it's I think you touch on several important points. Like one, it starts in the family. I'm pretty sure that every one of the members of the League of Women Voters had somebody in their family who was a voter, who was educated, who cared about what was going on in their communities and was an activist. And then it takes a crisis also. And I think that's what we've seen recently is the recent crisis, just the last 2 years, so many crises, which are not unusual, but they've all come together for the perfect storm to motivate people to be involved. And so I appreciate the fact that you've been able to recruit and retain and inspire the youth to join your activities. And I think one of the things that we've sought is to collaborate with other organizations that have engaged youth to let them understand how important voting and voting rights and elections and our representative government is. At this point, though, I would like to open it up and unmute everybody if they would like to ask a question, or you can raise your hand or shake your hand or whatever if you would like to ask a question at this point. And I'm going to have trouble seeing people, whether there are any other questions. I'm going to throw out one more question real quick, and then I see that Sharon Bushman and Karen Savitt have questions. In Ventura County, we don't really face the same challenges that voters face in Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Wisconsin. And so sometimes it is hard for us to motivate the high school kids when we go into the classrooms to register the vote, to make them understand why it's important. Do you have any tips for us about how to connect with that age group?
So actually we have, when we start our voter registration, we do have a group of people, and we haven't gone as far as the 10,000 Oaks, but we started at Oxford High School, Pacifica, and some in Ventura, I believe, where our youth council was out there registering kids from 17, letting them know that they can register now when they turn 18, that they can vote. Again, one of our biggest problems is, although we don't seem to have some of the issues of voting in Ventura County, we are still mindful that it could become an issue. And so the members in Ventura County are writing legislations on trying to make sure that we don't get into those type of situations. If some of these laws are passed, they're going to take away early voting, which we've seen the early voting actually push Georgia over, turning it from a red state to a blue state. We see right now in Texas where they're writing laws to block the votes. So could it possibly come here in California? We absolutely believe it can. Ventura County, and I think we had in our discussion, Ventura County, in my opinion, is a purple state. We never know where we may swing. We've seen that in elections that the margin was probably almost less than 16% between the two parties. And so how do we get the kids or the youth out here to be engaged? They want to know facts. They don't want to hear the politician, what is it, 30-second elevator pitch. They want to know that our the people we're pushing for or the legislation we're voting for, how does it fit into the scheme of their life? Right now, most of them are concerned about graduating, student loan debt, just being able to pay rent, to be able to buy food. And thus, so far, they feel like the election has let them down. And so how do you get them engaged? You're going to have to pull them in, again, hopefully starts at home, but pull them in and show them what can happen if election goes through. So 2 things I will point out to them. In the case of George Floyd, the community here called out for law enforcement to not do the knee in the neck and to ban the chokehold. And every police department in Ventura County signed on board with it. So your leadership is listening. We got to be able to prove to them they are listening. So if you can jot down some of the things that has happened in Ventura County that could impact them and ended up due to votes did not impact them. That's usually what we do. So we try to show them the pros, the pros and the cons of it. We then again highlight how some of our youth went from, like I said, point A to point B, and show their success rate. My daughter, again, like I said, she's in the classroom. I have a son right now. He doesn't talk as much. That happens to be teaching too as well. But my daughter, given any little chance that she can, she pushes activism. And so it really needs to start in the homes, in the classrooms, and with organizations as yourself.
Okay, excellent. So Sharon, did you have a question? You want to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Hey, I'm unmuted. Maybe everybody else knows and I'm not aware of it. Regina, do we coordinate with you on nonpartisan issues? The League of Women Voters of Ventura County, are we already doing that?
I believe so. If the NAACP actually has a website where organizations have an MOU with the NAACP, but because you're a nonpartisan organization, as we are as well, we do usually partner with these different organizations. I believe at one point, and I thought I seen Carmen Ramirez on here. At one point, we were going to Pacifica to do voter registration. And when we found out that the Women's Voter League was there, and we knew that, we didn't at that point step back because we didn't want to overshadow anyone's work. And that's one of the practices that we truly enforce in Ventura County. This is not a race or a competition. We are solely here to support every which way we can. And if you're working on probably a canvas or in a certain area, and we know that that your organization is doing that, we will definitely come in and support the best way we can. And if that means stepping back and knowing that you're doing a job, that's what we will do. So yes, we have no problem.
Great, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would say, Regina, that Carmen Hurd is our voter registration chair,
Okay.
who works in the Oxnard Union High School District. And
Okay.
the idea of the two organizations collaborating and going into the classrooms together is an interesting idea that we may pursue.
Okay.
Rather than just being deferential to each other, maybe we actually can work and present together. That would be
We're
something.
never differential. We have to remember that just as, and I looked at that, just as your members are probably our members are probably your members, you know. So well, that's what we've been finding out when we go into different organizations. I will see a member and I'm like, okay. So that's very helpful. And I do see Miss Carmen Hurd right there.
And Carmen, did you want to say something? I saw you putting your hand up. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Carmen.
You may have to help her.
Oh,
I think she
there you
may.
go. You got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Really appreciate, I think, that if we can do a collaborative presentation one of these days, that would really be super. You
No
know,
problem.
we have students, the big problem with students is sometimes their attention level is a little bit questionable or something, but it is something that they will relate to, like what you're saying, that they will get their attention. And that is really crucial. And getting them to think, it's not just lecturing them, but giving them examples of like what you said about George Floyd and things like this that makes them think, hey, there's more to this than what is, you know, more
What
than
you
what
see.
I am experiencing right now. There's a bigger picture. And that would really help our presentation. And I look forward to your input. And probably, like I said, maybe we can do a project together.
That would be wonderful. Now,
Yeah.
you're at which school district?
Well,
Oxnard
I'm
High School.
Oxnard Union High School District.
Okay, the high school, right?
Yeah.
So if you
But-
ever see a tall black girl with long hair or with a hoodie on walking through Keisha, that's my daughter. But she's one of the counselors at what's that school in the front? She works with independent study kids.
All right.
So
But
she's
Dr.
there.
Morales, he is the superintendent of all public schools in the
And I
country.
know Caesar very well.
Yes, Cesar Morales, he is very cooperative. He endorsed this program and he said, anything I can help. And that is really, it's really motivating us to reach out to more district schools and high school districts in the
He
in
is
the
a great
county.
guy. He's absolutely a great guy. So
Yes.
yeah, I would definitely look forward to that. Right now, we are looking at, and I might as well tell you, we are trying to figure out how to do things more electronically. One, due to COVID, and two, that kids are more interested in electronic stuff. And so we're planning on, and I don't know if you met Nesta, going into the school district and talking to the superintendent about voter registration. So yes, we'll be glad to help you
Excellent.
and
Great.
partner with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look
Um,
forward.
Karen,
Me
did you have a
too.
question? Karen Savitt, unmute.
I was wondering whether you're doing more to educate the students because they may not get their activism from home. How are you doing anything with classrooms or parents or anything by chance?
You know what? No, we are not. And in other areas, they are. Our biggest challenges, like I said, we have probably right now 25 to 30 NAACP youth councils. And our problem is they start from like high school up to age 25. And so when they get to college, a lot of them spread out. But they're learning with the NAACP, they're learning civil engagement. So when they go to conferences, they are learning about civil engagement. They're learning about different things that are going on in the community. I thought about playing a video for you of one of an 11-year-old girl. The NAACP Council during the shootings in Florida, BET flew them out there and they actually did a big campaign. And a lot of times with the NAACP, there was over 500, 600 students on ground who were part of the protest, and they were given credit for mobilizing this protest, but no one ever seen it in the media.
Hmm.
And it was very sad. The little girl talked about gun control and keeping a name of other youth that were killed, and no one mentioned her name. So it was very exciting. And so I normally use those type of videos to show that there is activism inside of our youth group and our youth councils, and they are doing voter registration. They're, like I said, they're writing legislations. They're in the schools. One, the new president for the California State Council, which would have been my counterpart, just graduated from Stanford University. And so he's been willing to come out and do Zooms and also do in-person meetings. He is trying to get youth activated to understand that it's important to get out there and be involved in your community. So we're having that bigger problem too. So it's hard for us to get them engaged in the schools. And I have to say primarily the Black students, when their ratio is only probably 1% to 2%. And me and Mr. Cesar Morales have talked about that, and it's hard to get them engaged. So what we do is we are able to talk to them by having meetings or having events and being able to allow them to talk about what's going on in the community in their own spaces. So yeah, we're having a problem getting them in the classrooms. They only see us when we're doing voter registration in the campuses.
I was also curious about when there are so many difficulties in Texas and in Georgia. I know Indivisible did postcard writing for voting to encourage people to vote. Do you also do that, work with all the other chapters in different states?
So I am over 11 units, starting from here to Merced. And when we did we could not endorse Governor Newsom, but we did do a full campaign where we did telephone calls, texting. We also had a big event that went across, it was televised, where people got online and talked about voting. So we drew, probably from my understanding, I want to say probably about 6,000 people, and that was from the state of California, about voter registration. So we do those type of activities, but going into the classroom is a little difficult because, as Carmen said, the attention span, getting the kids involved, so a lot of times, like I said, Carmen, if you see my daughter, she's about 5'9". She's really tall and slender. She looks like she's a high school student, and she's actually 29. But she is an activist, and if she can get the kids on a one-on-one, she sometimes will talk about where they plan on going, what they're doing in college, advocating that they stay in school, you know, so she's really good at doing that. So, and she also, I have to mention this too, she uses sometimes, and I shouldn't say uses, but she goes sometimes in her colors. And when I say her colors, she is part of the sorority of Alpha Kappa Alpha. So she'll wear her colors, and the kids at that point are drawn to her. And they're looking like, okay, you're part of that group, you know, that does this and this and this. And so she's able to open that conversation and have those dialogues with the kids. So, you know, and not many could do it because a lot of them are Greek. She just so happens to be great. So we use everything we can to try to get people to listen. I'm watching you guys on 2 screens, so if I look like I'm going to the side, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I think there was one more question, and I think Trudy Wolf is hiding behind her husband's name. Is that you, Trudy, under Robert O'Reilly? And do you still have a question?
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's not
I was
Trudy.
actually going, no, this is Robert. Sorry.
Yes, got it. Sorry.
I originally showed up here as Carmen Ramirez. So Regina, that's probably why you saw Carmen on here.
Okay.
And then she wasn't because I changed my name. But I do
Okay.
believe the supervisor is on now. If you did have a question for her, Regina.
Oh, no. Me and Carmen are
Okay.
friends. She's friends with my dad. So Carmen is a
Okay,
very
great.
good supporter of the NAACP.
And,
right.
and welcome, Robert. I'm so sorry that I misnamed you, but I knew you were somebody else other than who you
No,
are right
that's-
now. And Trudy is
That's perfectly
there
fine.
as Trudy Wolf, so I don't know why I thought you were Trudy.
That's okay, fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just happy
Yep,
to be here.
I'm
Thank you.
here. I'm here as myself tonight.
Yes, I see that now. Okay, well, we are getting to the point where we have to move on with our agenda. If I don't see any other hands raised right now, I would like you all to unmute and show your appreciation for Regina Crawford.
Thank you. And I look forward to hearing
you.
from you all again, and Carmen. And I gotta run because I have another meeting I'm about to jump on.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming and joining us
Thank you.
and sharing your
Thank
insight.
you. This was fun and I really appreciate it.
Okay, bye.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now I'm going to share the screen again so we can get back onto our agenda. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the first part of our program planning, which has to do with developing our recommendations for the US League and sort of looking at what they've promoted. And so I am going to actually read to you. I think I can maybe stop sharing the screen and just let you know what our program what our league program is and why we do this. So program planning is the grassroots process of recommending and selecting governmental issues for study and agreement in reaching a position. And we are working on both US recommendations, our recommendations to the US League and to our local league. Every other year we do the state recommendations. And the league program is basically the education and advocacy platform that we adopt to move our mission forward. Every 2 years, in the months leading up to convention, leagues around the country meet to review the LWVUS program and to propose issues for study and action. Oops, sorry. And during the program process, leagues should incorporate an emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion into our work. The DEI lens is a way of examining the process as to how it is perceived by a variety of communities, voices, and perspectives, and what, if any, barriers may exist that prevent it from being equitable and inclusive for everyone. A key part of applying the DEI lens is ensuring that all members feel informed and included in program planning, which is why all of our membership were invited to this meeting And you were the lucky ones who chose to show up. So thank you very much for all of you being here. So moving on to what does the National League Board recommend for program planning for 2022-2024? And the first thing they recommend is continuing the work that they've done on the campaign for making democracy work, which includes working on voting rights, improving elections, money in politics, and redistricting. And at the 2020 convention, delegates voted to support that program to fully utilize core league positions around voting rights and election reform. The campaign for making democracy work includes ensuring a free, fair, and accessible electoral system for all eligible voters. Leagues at every level continue to work to protect and advance voting rights and election reform at this critical time for our democracy, as well as fight efforts in Washington, D.C. and state legislatures that are trying to suppress voters. At the same time, the League of Women Voters continues our transformational journey to strengthen the organization while also engaging new and future activists around the League's core issues. Hence, we're trying to get the next generation to follow us along and do the work that has been in the generations before us, as well as our generation. And as we look to achieve our transformational goals around relevance, impact, focus, and culture, we also look to the priority issues that are at the heart of the League's mission. So just to let you know what they have done since the convention in 2020, they have lobbied the White House and Congress and sent action emails to our network of grassroots activists, as well as supporting legislation like the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. They also have included action alerts such as DC statehood, healthcare reform, and the Equal Rights Amendment. And I think you know that our local league has been working on all those fronts also. The Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act would set standards for voting across the country, address the historical barriers to voting, provide oversight on voting rights violations, hold states and bad actors accountable, and create a democracy that is representative of all Americans. And I think we can probably agree that we have reached a crucial time in our democracy where the threat to our voting rights and our actual democratic republic is truly being brought to the forefront. I like to sort of think of it as the fact that it's possible that those of us who were active in the 60s and 70s, which is most of our membership, thought we had solved all the problems. You know, we fixed all the problems. Voting Rights Act was passed, Civil Rights Act was passed, women's rights to an abortion was passed, Equal Rights Amendment was passed. But here we are in 2022, realizing that those things may have passed, but they're not secure unless we pay attention. And we perhaps became a bit complacent in our belief that we had solved all the world's problems and therefore everything was great. And lo and behold, evil still lurks around the corners in the world. And we have to pay attention and be involved and engaged. And more importantly, we really do have to engage the younger generation that's coming behind us so our work can continue. One of the other areas that the League launched in September of 2019 was the People Powered Fair Maps Initiative. And that united leagues across 50 states and the District of Columbia in a coordinated national organizing and educational effort to end partisan gerrymandering through ballot initiatives, legislative and constitutional fixes, and work to create district maps that are fair and reflective of the communities they've served. We've been working with the communities on redistricting. We have new redistricting maps. And interestingly, one of the questions that we presented to the legislative in our legislative interviews that we've just done this past month was, What are we planning on doing to make sure that the redistricting that occurs in 2031 is fair? Because it's never too early to start working on that problem. Let's see, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit here. In addition, the League continues to do litigation work relevant to Making Democracy Work campaign. The League in the 2020 election led the League to the busiest litigation year with 77 cases filed in 37 states, all to increase voter access, encourage greater voter participation, leading to protecting more than 25 million voters. And between July and October of 2021, the League has filed 5 cases challenging anti-voter laws around the country, 3 cases to further redistricting reform, and 2 money in politics cases, and more than a dozen cases dealing with other critical issues related to voter protection and access. So I think you can see that our National League has been on the forefront and has been working very hard on many fronts to protect voting rights, election reform, getting money out of politics, and making sure our districting process is as fair as it possibly can be. So with that said, I'm going to close this part down. I'm going to share the screen again to let you see that basically what the National League is recommending is that we continue the campaign for Making Democracy Work, which includes voting rights, improving elections, getting money out of politics, and working on fair redistricting. Now, there are some other issues that have been brought forth by other leagues, and I'm gonna fall down here because I don't have that thing about immigration up yet. Hang on a second, bear with me. One of the other leagues in California is recommending that we recommend to the National League that they consider immigration reform. And they feel this is an urgent and appropriate moment for the U.S. League to invest more energy in advocating for legislation that would incrementally improve the lives of immigrants, whether they are undocumented essential workers, dreamers, farm workers, or green card holders who have been waiting for decades to become citizens. During 2021, there were many unsuccessful efforts to reach compromises and to address the concerns of members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. Since 1986, Congress has continually failed to act on immigration reform. The U.S. League has positions that support legal admission of persons into the United States with the following criteria, just briefly, to promote reunification of immediate families, meet economic and business and employment needs of the United States, be responsible to those facing political persecution on humanitarian crisis, provide for student visas, ensure fair treatment under the law for all persons, in transition to a reform system, support provisions for unauthorized immigrants already in the country. So they are asking us to consider recommending to the National League that they take up the issue of immigration reform and pursue that as part of their program in the next 2 years. And this is from the League of Women Voters California Immigration Interest Group. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing that screen and open it up. If you have questions that you would like to ask about the proposed programs for the US League, most of them have to do with the campaign for Making Democracy Work. There are a couple of others that have to do with the Equal Rights Amendment, making sure that the ratification is accepted, Fair Representation Act, which has to do with voting and independent commissions for drawing district lines. But the only one that we've actually been asked about is the immigration reform. Yes, Kathy, go ahead.
Well, how many recommendations do we get to make?
We can make as many as we want to.
Okay, So we can choose the fair representation as well as immigration reform, plus more if we want.
If we want to, yes, yes.
Thank you.
Tom Carson, are you here? Did you? Yes, yeah, there you are. Do you want to say anything about either the U.S. Program or the immigration reform program that's presented?
Well, I think I'm really voicing the opinion of my wife too. Making democracy work at this time is vital. Never-ending struggle. As you said, the League has been working on a lot of these issues for decades and still not solved. So it's been an incredible amount of time. And the issue on some of these other ones, like immigration reform, is while the League has, National League has wonderful staff in DC, there are only so many of them, and there are only so many things that they can tackle. And it's not that they don't want to deal with immigration, and they're always somewhat reactive to the situation. If something comes up where you can be effective, they can try to fit that in with everything else. There are so many possible things the League wants, loves, and love to have everyone do. I mean, just like your league, the Ventura County League, can't do everything they would love to do on all the different subjects that your members love and are adamant about. So, but I think at this time, with all of the stuff we see in the news every day and across the country, making democracy work has to be the overwhelming majority of our.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. Maddie, you have your hand up. Would you like to say something?
Yes, yes. I guess I'm basically agreeing with Tom. I feel like immigration reform is really, really important. And I think that it definitely needs to be worked on. But as the League of Women Voters, I feel like it's less in our mission than all the other things that we've been talking about that have more to do with voting rights and, you know, making voting and elections and all of that better. And those things are under attack now like they haven't been since the 70s. So I do feel like it makes more sense for us to put all our effort into those kinds of issues and let other groups that are more focused on immigration take the lead in working on that issue. That's my feeling. So
Great, thank you. I see that there's a comment in the chat, which is relevant. It says, basically, if we can't vote, we can't get immigration reform or any of the other vital things done. So voting is indeed our top priority. Okay, so at this point, if no one else has any questions or comments they'd like to make, we're going to do our first poll. And I hope I can do this right. Okay, first poll has to do with the US priorities, and you can vote for as many as you would like. Can everybody see that? There we go. Okay. Oh, wait. Before I do this, I need to make people not co-hosts because you can't vote if you're a co-host. So let me withdraw that. I want to make sure everybody can do that. So if you were made a co-host at some point, thank you if you did that for me, Maddie. Okay, so it looks like we've got 1 of 1 answered. That can't be right. Are you guys still? And there we go. Okay, now we got more people coming in. Thank you.
I'm clicking and nothing's happening.
Well, be patient. Oh, wait, you know what? Let me make sure you're not a co-host. Nope, you're not a co-host. Well, we got 6 people that have voted so far, so keep trying. 7.
Well, you didn't say to actually vote. Then you said, hold on while you unmuted people or something.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm not.
That's
Then
why
not.
I haven't voted.
Okay, so go ahead and vote. Now you should all be able to vote now. It was just the
Okay.
people who were co-hosts,
Okay.
and there were only 2 of us apparently. So now we've got 10 people have voted out of 22. And there are a few people here who won't be able to vote if they're not members, but if you're a member, you can vote.
You need to hit the submit button too, in case you didn't notice that.
Thanks,
I
Pat.
don't have a submit button, Betsy. There's no submit button on mine.
Ah,
How can that be?
Scroll down.
Scroll down and see if you can find it below there.
Oh, it just says end polling.
hmm.
Yeah, she's not a co-host anymore, right?
No,
Was a co-host before.
Yeah, I
We took
voted
that
to
away
make-
from you.
Make me a co-host again.
Weird.
Won't let me submit either.
Oh,
so why is that? I don't-
I have an end polling. Should I do that?
No, don't be in the polling. That's me.
so you're still somehow a host, maybe.
No, she shouldn't be because she was not
Doesn't
made.
say co-host by participant.
Oh, you know what? Close it because it might have,
Okay, close it. Okay, well now nothing's up.
How does she
If
open
you
it?
vote for everything, I mean, that was the other thing. I hadn't been able to scroll up to vote for the other question. Once I did that, I could submit.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I did that too. You had to actually vote for both of them before you could submit.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, you do.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And you don't have to, I'm sorry, I did not leave an option for you to say no on it, sorry. So that's a problem, but I think what I'm seeing right now is so far we've got 17 out of 22 people who have voted, and 16 of the 17 or 94%, now 17 of 18 are in favor of voting rights. 61% are in favor of getting rid of money in politics. 50% are in favor of working on redistricting, and 39% are in favor of improving elections. And turns out campaign for making democracy work is a package deal. So all of those things are going to be things that the US League will be working on, but we can let them know what our priorities are.
Betsy,
And-
you should be able to share that poll with
I'm
us.
going to, as soon as I'm sure that
okay.
we're done, 18 out of 22. So we're going to just end the poll now. Okay. And then share the results. Okay. Can everybody see the results now?
Mhm.
Mine says 0 all the way down.
Yours says 0 all the way down.
Yep.
Okay, well, let me read to you.
I believe you.
Voting rights was 94% yes. Money in politics, getting money out of politics was 61%. Redistricting was 50%. Improving elections 39%. And in the other areas, immigration reform, ERA ratification, health, women's health issues, and Fair Representation Act all got about 7 or 8 votes. So that's like 50% or less. So there's not a dramatic like, oh yes, we need to encourage the US League to work on all these other issues too. We can put in that these were things that we considered, there was some support for them, but really mainly we're supporting voting rights and the campaign for making democracy work. And I'm going to say that now. I'm going to let you guys unmute if you want to. Oops, we're not going to do this one yet. Unmute, and if you have other comments you'd like to say or questions you have about this, please speak up, because this is supposed to be a collaborative group effort. And if you feel strongly that we should be putting our priorities someplace else, that would be important to say that now. Maddie, you're muted.
Thought I had muted myself. I must have muted myself. Do you know if those percentages were of the votes cast?
Yes.
Because I was surprised at how high the ones were on the bottom, and I'm just wondering
Yes.
if there were less votes cast for those items, period.
There were less votes because there were like, well, there were like 18 people voted, and maybe 7 to 9 votes were included those other issues as well as the ones above. I didn't do that poll very well, and I'm really sorry, because there should have been a way to say, no, I don't care about any of this. Laura, you have your hand up and you're muted, so unmute yourself and speak up.
Thank you. I had a question about the redistricting item. I know that our redistricting maps here in California are being written. do we expect that that is going to continue to be an issue into 2024? Or is this, and aren't we almost all the way through our redistricting process? Do you
So,
know?
yeah, so the US League is working on the federal elections redistricting, although they do encourage states to encourage counties and cities and local areas to do a redistricting process that is more fair, that it's not just the elected officials deciding how can we make the district so that I can stay elected. But the redistricting that they're working on is to try to encourage more states to use the mechanism of an independent commission that California is using, and in hoping that that will make it less likely that there will be gerrymandered districts. And in all honesty, and Tom can correct me if I'm wrong about this, California is the only state where there's not been litigation about the federal districts that were created by the Independent Commission.
That's true. And none of the maps, the assembly maps and the state senate maps, none of those that were done by the state district commission. There's no litigation involved.
Right. I'm sorry. And I forgot about that, that our state, our state independent commission does the state and assembly districts also. There is some litigation going on in San Luis Obispo County, though, for the board of supervisors districting map that they developed. But that's the only one that I've heard of in our general area at this point.
Thank you.
There's these county and local jurisdictions are still in process in a lot of locations. I mean, some have been finished, but a lot of them are still in progress. Don't have a due date until earlier this. I mean, sometime soon, but not yet.
Okay. Okay, so I am really sorry because I've taken up way too much time on this. We are now at the point, and we're behind the point, but I got behind. But at this point, I would like to open up our meeting to our Race and Social Justice Committee, chaired by Kay Armstrong and supported by Laura Hernandez, for them to present what they have been working on in the committee with a SWOT analysis and SMART goals.
Betsy, would you make me a co-host again, please?
Oh, I am so sorry. Sure, you can be the co-host again. Yeah. And Laura probably needs to be a co-host also because she's got a presentation to share. So I'm gonna make you a co-host also. And Kay, do you have anything that you want to share? Or you just want to be part of it? We can be spotlight.
I'll just do a little bit of a speech. No.
Okay.
I just want to say that last year at our planning meeting, our annual planning meeting, the League decided to create a Race and Social Justice Committee. And we've been meeting since March of 2021. And we've been meeting monthly. There were so many things to talk about as far as race and social justice that it almost felt like we were reinventing the wheel. And finally, in August, we decided that we needed to embark on a SWOT analysis. And Laura will explain what that SWOT stands for, because we need to become more focused and recognize what our strengths and our weaknesses and what our opportunities and all that are. And so thanks to the work of our committee and Laura, we are presenting this to you today. So I am very happy to say, go ahead, Laura.
And before you go ahead, Laura, I would like to ask everybody else to mute themselves so that we don't get a lot of background and interference.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Maddie. All right, so as Kay mentioned, we started this process to narrow the focus of the committee, narrow it down to reasonable action that we could take using the existing resources we have. So I'm going to share with you our process, and then we can take maybe some questions at the end if we have time. So I just want to recognize our committee before we move forward. These are our members of the committee who've helped us in this process. A lot of questions and information and expertise has been shared during this process, and I think you'll see some of that as we go through and review the actual results of our SWOT analysis. So thank you, committee members, and those of you here have participated. So just to give by way of background, a SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool that's used to help organizations identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that can facilitate the development of a strategy for the organization's success. So there's definitely a typo in this paragraph. The SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that threats is missing in this paragraph. But essentially that's, it's a tool that helps us narrow down our goals to reasonable goals that are achievable for us. And we'll talk about that as well in a bit. So in the end, we hope to have as a deliverable a documentation of our organization's efforts to bind its strategy, its direction, and a guide to future decisions for how we operate as a committee, how we direct our resources among the committee members. And of course, during this process, we wanted to make sure that we developed committee-specific goals that were aligned with the mission of the league. That helps us even remain even more focused, so we don't get too far out there and beyond the goals of the league as an organization. So this is what a SWOT matrix looks like. You can see in the faded boxes, you can see strengths, and to the right, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And on the outside of the box, you'll see those elements that are either helpful or harmful. If you're going across the top, your helpful objectives are going to be your strengths and opportunities. Your harmful objectives are going to be those weaknesses and the threats that we identify. And then conversely, if you look on the left-hand side of the diagram, your strengths and weaknesses are those that you find internal to your organization, things within the league, things within the committee that keep us from achieving our goals. And then externally, opportunities and threats are what we want to look at for those things we can capitalize on and use for achieving our goals. So we use this as, we start at this point with listing out all our strengths, all our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which later we analyze into specific and SMART goals. So here you can see these are all the comments that the committee came up with. I'm not going to read them all, but I think in general we identified our strengths as within the committee has a committed group of smart, motivated members. We have experience in our membership. We have name recognition. The league is an respected organization. Being that Ventura County is, we work together in a lot of different capacities. We pretty much know the other organizations that we need to link with. And so we have a lot of strengths within our organization among the talent of our membership. And then if you look over to the right, you'll see that some of the weaknesses are the makeup of the league. We had to be really honest with ourselves and say that many of us come from a position of privilege, mostly white and economically secure. And sometimes that keeps us from reaching out to other organizations or to be relatable to other diverse populations. So with that, I'll just move over to, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me go back. And then here we have the opportunities. And we felt that we really needed to educate ourselves on social and racial equity issues. And so we are encouraging our members to embark on reading books, identifying books and articles, videos that will help educate us about other people's situation and issues so that we can better learn about the more specific racial and social equity issues that are out there. Go to rallies, cultivate multicultural peers like CAUSE and the NAACP, which we heard from today. And we wanted to invite speakers like we did for today to hear their stories and their experiences. And we have many opportunities with other organizations to do that. So that's just a piece of some of the opportunities that we identified. And then threats. People, I think generally, if you look externally on a social, social kind of perspective, people fear those who don't look like them. And we have to recognize that the areas of our county that are a threat to what we are trying to accomplish, not everybody wants to be socially equitable or racially equitable. There's a fear in that. There's deep rooted feelings and perceptions among people that don't want to venture out. So we have to be mindful of some of these threats that we've identified here. But what I'm trying to do in this presentations is to show the groups, the other committees here, that this process can be used in your committee as well. And we thought it worked very well. So that for now is the SWOT. That's our SWOT analysis, and we're continuing to use it. We're still in the process of analyzing and developing our goals, but we have developed a few goals, and this is how we did it. We went into learning about SMART goals, and SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And if your goal is written so that it meets each of these categories, then you have a SMART goal. So so in doing so, we analyzed the SWOT, we identified some specific goals that we wanted to reach. And one, for instance, one of the primary goals was the Social Justice Committee will identify and collaborate with other organizations that are addressing issues related to race and social equity. So we feel that goal is pretty specific now, and it's measurable, it's achievable. We have the resources to achieve that. We know the groups that are out there, certainly relevant to what we're trying to achieve and what the league is trying to achieve on an organizational basis. And time bound, well, we're going to have to put a time frame on this. Do we want to try to achieve this goal within the next year or within 2 years, 3 years? So we still have yet to do that. And I guess that'll just depend on the league overall, how they would like us to, what kind of time frame they'd like us to put on this, on these goals and then our accomplishments. So just then now moving to the 2 goals that we developed, and I'm sorry if I'm moving really fast through this. I'm being conscious of time here. So the first goal, as I read earlier, the Social Justice Committee will identify and collaborate with other organizations that are addressing issues related to race and social equity. We felt, well, let's start with a list. How are we going to achieve this goal? So we get into objectives, which describe how we get there. We're going to develop a list of organizations such as the Ventura County Diversity and Equity Inclusion Committee. I believe that's what the DEI stands for. And MICOP, which works with Mixteco population, NWACP, and other organizations, is to develop a list and then conduct outreach for possible partnerships and outreach opportunities, maybe joining with NWACP and doing voter recruitment, voter registration, which I think would be really impactful to have these organizations all together out on a campus somewhere and recruiting youth in registering to vote. And then we want to participate in events to build our exposure, and so that the league has, people can see us and people can get to know us. So we look to events like MLK Day, Martin Luther King Day, Juneteenth, September 16th. MICOP has an annual cultural celebration, and I'm sure there are others that we can participate in to better connect with the other organizations that are out there. Then the second goal that we came up with was to engage in events, programs, and activities that increase awareness and help educate our members on issues related to race and social equity. And so we are working on developing a recommended reading list, and we've been encouraged to participate in book clubs relating to race and social equity, viewing recommended films and documentaries, such as the one that was hosted out of Pasadena, the League of Women Voters in Pasadena, the racially charged America's Misdemeanor, and then again invite speakers to share their experiences. So we really broke it down into these two primary goals. There's one we're considering related to possibly standing up and or requesting a oversight committee for the Sheriff's Department. That's being discussed right now. But this is about as far as we've gotten. That this gives you an example of how we've gone about it and how we're going to proceed in the future. These will be our focus areas. And the next thing we do is we decide who's going to take the lead, who's going to be assigned to help lead in each one of these areas. So we have yet to do that. So the process is really where we decide where to go and what to do next, which is where we're not quite there yet because we're still working on our goals. We're going to finalize the SWOT analysis and the strategic plan and bring that back to the full board when we're completely done. And then we just repeat the process. It's a very fluid process. So once the board or the general members hear the final SWOT analysis, you'll have an opportunity to validate, make changes, add other opportunities that we might not have considered. For instance, maybe we need to have a goal in there specifically directed toward youth. So that's something maybe we need to consider for an additional goal for the committee. So in either case, when can the committee get started? We've started on this process. Some of the things we're doing while we're in the process. A lot of people think sometimes strategic planning takes too long, but sometimes we can find that low-hanging fruit for those things that are relatively easy to do, like picking up the phone and calling Robin with an NWACP and asking how can we participate in MLK or Juneteenth. It could be as easy as that. We don't have to wait till everything is absolutely complete. But we certainly do want to get validation and approval by the overall board and general membership. So with that, that's the end of my presentation on SWOT. And Kay, do you want to add anything, or Betsy, do you want to add anything? If not, we can take questions.
No, I just wanted to add that, of course, as Laura said, we're not done, we're in process. And so there's still a lot to be done. And, you know, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. So I'm thinking this is a really positive process, and to get a lot of collaboration from people in the group. And I want to especially thank Laura, because she was one of our committee members who has this skill, and it was fabulous. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, the reward comes in the discussion and the sharing of information and experiences just among the committee members. And it's a very participative process, and the committee has been really good at providing the feedback we need to come up with our specific SMART goals.
And I just like to add that, and I think Laura said this, that this is an ongoing process. It's not, you do it once, you're done, it's over with. And without a doubt, the process of going through it and thinking about it and talking about it really did help this committee bring into focus where we can act, where our strengths are, what we can do. And I think it made the committee feel much more cohesive and with a direction, and rather than feeling like they're paddling around in water and trying to figure out how to survive. So again, unmute yourselves, and Laura, maybe you can stop sharing and we'll give you a well-deserved applause.
Okay, thank you.
So one of the reasons why I have brought this up, or why I wanted Laura and Kay to present it, is I think this is an important process for our board, as well as all of our committees, to go through. So the next part of our meeting, which will only take 15 minutes because that's all we have left, is going to be looking at what are our priorities. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again with the agenda so that you can again remember all the things that we have had in our priorities for the last year. And as Tom Carson points out, we have a lot of activities that we have put up here. And in all honesty, I want to just thank the membership and the committee chairs, because I think you have all done a tremendous job this year of working on all of these areas. So what we need to do right now is to decide what our priorities are, whether we want to keep working on what we're working on, or whether we want to add other ideas, and how we want to approach it. So what I'm going to have happen next is we're going to go through each committee, and the chairperson will give 1 or 2 sentences saying why they think their committee activities are important, have been important, are worthwhile, and they're kind of their pitch for why they think we should vote for continuing it. So as always, voting in elections are part of making democracy work. And we have 3 areas under that. The first one is Voter Services Committee. And I'm going to call on Kathy Morgan and Pat Essick, who are our current co-chairs of the Voter Services Committee, to see if they have 1 or 2 sentences they'd like to share as to why that's important to work on those areas.
Well, I'll start. Voting is essential to our democracy. We need to protect the right to vote, and part of our mission is to inform voters and educate voters. And the Voting Services Committee has just finished
We lost you. What happened? We can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I can't either.
Kathy, we can't hear you.
A and B. So I don't know if Pat has something to add, but.
But we didn't get to hear everything you said, so I'm just going to add a little bit. We're meeting on March 1st, Kathy, myself, and David Marin, who's also part of our committee, a big part of it. And he and Kathy have been talking about doing candidate forums for the Prop A and Prop B. Is that what they are? Prop A? Are they Prop?
And the regular candidate forums, yes.
Right, yeah. So we're already at work on it.
Yeah. Sorry, my internet went unstable.
Right. And one of the things that Kathy mentioned that you didn't get to hear is that that we've just completed a 7-week series of educating or interviewing Ventura County elected officials to find out what their jobs are, what the skills are required to do those jobs, and what the challenges are they face. And we recorded it. It's on our YouTube channel, and it's there for us to use as further education for voters, new voters, anybody who's going to be voting in the primary coming up. So great work, you guys.
I encourage anybody who hasn't had a chance to tune into those and watch them to watch them. I'm very respectful of the people who work in our county government, and it's amazing big jobs that they do. It's good to learn about it.
I learned a lot from listening to our speakers, truly. They do a lot more than I expected.
Okay, so next on the list is Voter Registration Committee. So I'm going to turn that over to Carmen if she has a few comments, a couple of sentences that she would like to say about why she thinks voter registration is so important. Carmen, are you there? Unmute yourself.
So there you go.
There you go.
Can you hear me? Okay, I have 3 short things to say, and pretty much covered what I was talking to Regina. We should have we are aiming for a bigger, larger outreach for the district, because right now the district that is really not working, but that is producing this voter registration is the Oxnard Union High School District. So if we can expand the outreach to other school district, high school district, that would be great. We're willing to train anybody. And I thank Willie, who hosted a program last time, that I have a request from other organization, and they will be giving me a call tomorrow and see if they can get some pointers on how to do a voter registration. And I'm still working and would like to work with other high school districts. I believe that our young people should really be getting involved in this because this is their future. And working with other organizations probably is the second goal that can help us, as long as they have the same type of, I guess, a 501c3 as a nonpartisan, because that would be helpful for us, but it's not limited to that. So those are the three goals. I think more training, more outreach to other school districts, and cooperating or working with other like Justice for All organization to host and do voter registration, either public or in the high schools.
Excellent. Thank you, Carmen. Okay, and the third section on the voting in elections is the Civics Education / Media Team Committee, and I am currently the chair of that. And I would just say that the media team has been very active this year in writing letters to the editor, writing articles, getting public information out, educating voters in Ventura County about how the election will work now that we're going on to Voters' Choice Act. And I think this committee is important for continuing its activities for voter education, both about how our government works and how our elections work, and trying to reassure the public that our elections are transparent and fair. Okay, so that's voting in elections. Next, we're going to come to Climate Change Committee, and I'm going to turn it over to Wayne. Let him say a few words about why he thinks that's important.
Hi. Yeah, I think climate change is important to Ventura County because it will, and it is here. We're facing, effects of climate change, including fires and droughts, sea level rise, and heat waves. And, we need to educate the public and our leaders about what needs to be done and can be done. And I also think that we should include questions during our forums to the candidates about climate change and see how they, what their plans are for that.
Excellent, excellent, terrific. I think those are good ideas too. Moving on to the next committee, Race and Social Justice Committee. I think you heard a good presentation about what they are doing and why they think they're important, but I want to give Kay the opportunity to say just a little bit more about her committee.
Okay. Well, I think it's very important in light of what the current events are of the day. I mean, when we see voting rights being targeted, especially to people of color, and also the recent thing over the freeway about white supremacists, I think we have a lot to combat in our communities. And the more we're educated about what people have been suffering through and what they've been having to suffer at the hands of our legal system, I think we're very important.
Excellent, great, thank you. But you're not off the hook yet, because the next committee is the Scholarship Committee.
Okay.
You're chair of that one.
Okay, well, our scholarship committee is geared to help further the ability of students at our 3 local community colleges who are focusing on political science, government history, to move on to a 4-year college or university to fulfill their educational requirements and hopefully become citizens that, may become lawyers, may become people who are working in government. But this is sort of the follow and push our goals.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Trudy, do you want to say anything about housing and homelessness? I don't know if, Trudy, are you still here? Oops. Maybe she's not here, or maybe she has nothing to say. I don't know. We'll leave it at that for right now. Our Housing and Homelessness Committee has had a rough start because it's lost 2 of its chairs over the last 2 years. And so it's been struggling. I think we still all agree that housing and affordable housing and homeless issues are important in Ventura County. And we are just, maybe this is one that is a little bit on hold as to what we can do about it. So that's all we have to say about that, I guess. The next one is a Civil Discourse Committee, and I'm going to let Sharon Bushman speak a little bit about why she thinks that is an important activity.
Well, like Regina talked to us about, we've got to include younger people, and the scholarships is one way to do it with providing. So I'd like to see us provide free membership for our 3 scholarship winners for about 1 to 2 years at least, to get them involved. They've now given them something to go on ahead, and they can instruct us as well. So I really think scholarship is important, and we get funds for that specifically, the league does. Civil discourse, again, Regina talking about things that young people, students want to talk about. And we do work with CSUCI, and those students do choose their topic. So it allows us to work with students who are talking to other students. And again, I'd love to see us give 1 to 2 year memberships for those students that participate with our team. And hopefully that will let them be more involved and into the future as well. So I'd like to see civil discourse continue as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And then moving down at the bottom here, the Meet the Members social meetings. And I'm going to let, oh, Guy, I'm so sorry. It's Maddie Park and not Kay. It's Pat Butler here. So sorry about that. I will change that so Pat can have her due. Sorry about that, Pat. And go ahead, and both of you can take the floor and say what you'd like to say about the Meet the Members and why you think that's an important activity to continue.
Oh, I'll speak. It's important because it gets personal communication going between the members and potential members sometimes. We've been having, recently we've been having Zoom meetings instead of in person. And we get participants who are just interested in the league. They're feeling us out, and it's very beneficial. And we also have an opportunity there for new members to ask questions. So I think that the Meet the Members is a very worthwhile activity. It's somewhat relaxed. We don't really have an agenda usually, but there's almost always some topic for discussion that comes up of interest to all of us. So I'd like to continue that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank Pat for coming up with the idea. She's the one who started it a couple of years ago by now, or maybe 3 even, at Aloha Steakhouse here in Ventura. And so she's kind of pulled back a little bit from that, although as membership chair, she, or director, she is still very much involved and also sending out the notices. But so we have the meet the members on the first Tuesday, right? Friday, Wednesday. So on the first Wednesday, and I host that one. This month, we're still going to be doing it on Zoom, but hopefully next month, we're going to go back to Aloha Steakhouse on the pier. And then Kay, she's hosting the one on the third Wednesday. And do you want to say anything about that, Kay?
Yes, I'm so sorry, Kay. I didn't mean to eliminate you. I just meant to add Pat.
That's all right. I thought, oh, no, I think it's been really great to be able actually to do it on Zoom, because we've been able to get some people who otherwise wouldn't be able to come. And so I'm not sure whether I want to, whether we will decide to change everything to in person. It was wonderful before, and we each had different areas that we would host people at different meals and get to know those people in that particular area. But this does give an opportunity for people who may not want to drive that far to sort of come and join with us, and we get to know them. New members come, and sometimes we have discussions. So it's been really helpful.
Excellent. And we have, finally, we have standing committees that I'm not going to make them talk about how important they are, because they are required committees that we have: the Budget Committee, the Bylaws Committee, the Homeowners Association Elections Committee, and then Nominating Committee and Voters Edge, which basically Voters Edge is a one-person show. But anyway, so I think you've heard from all of the chairs of our committees. And one of the things I would like to say is, and I'm going to stop sharing here, is one of the things that has made our league seem more vibrant and more active is the fact that the chairs of these committees have really taken on a leadership role. And I really, really, really appreciate that, because the board can't do all the work, and the board needs help with the members being involved and engaged. And it's a lot more fun when there are a lot more people involved. And so I am very, very appreciative of all of the chairs and people who have been involved and engaged in making these activities productive this past year. And having said that, now we get to have another poll where we vote on whether we want to continue these activities. And again, it's a multiple choice one, and there's not an option to say, no, I don't want to do any of these. Oops, wrong place. Not sharing the screen. We're going to do a poll. So we'll see how this works out and see if, exit this poll. Wait a minute, let me see. Okay, share the results. I shared the results. Okay, stop sharing. Now we should do the next poll. Nope, that's the same poll. Share the results. Exit the poll. Okay, hang on a second. Let me figure out how to do the next poll. Oh, wait, here it is. It's up here. Sorry. Okay, so now is your opportunity. I hope you'll all have the opportunity to vote on which activities, and you do not have to vote on all of them. You can pick your top 3, you can pick your top 7, you can pick your top 1. Does anybody see the poll there that they can start voting on?
Yes.
Please start. And Maddie, I mean, make you not co-host so you can vote.
Okay.
Oh, Laura, I should make you not a co-host so you can vote also. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yes. Cancel. So you should not be a co-host any. Oh, Guy, no, you're still there. Let me take you away. Withdraw co-host.
Let's see, we're voting on what we personally want to be involved with, or what this chapter should be involved with.
What our local league chapter. You don't have to personally vote for what you're personally interested in. If you're not interested in any of them, that's fine, but you can hope that other people will work on things.
Just making sure.
Yeah, and just to let you know, these are all anonymous, so I have no idea who's supporting what. So that's good.
Can you open it one more time?
Yeah, I don't know why I can't, I don't know how to open it. It is open.
It just.
I'm gonna
closed for
relaunch
me.
it again. I don't know. We'll see what happens if I relaunch it. Oh, yeah, everybody has to vote again. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm
should we all
sorry,
vote
I
again?
apologize.
Everybody needs to vote again. Sorry.
Did you see that Kathy has her hand up?
Kathy, I cannot, no, Kathy,
Morgan.
where are you? Can you not vote again?
I can't, but Wayne's getting on his computer. Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna go to his computer.
Can you let me in?
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's what I'm trying to do. Yes, I'm doing that right now. Sorry, Wayne.
Oh, no problem.
So
Sorry, everybody.
I hope everybody can see the poll this time and can vote. We're getting eight people have voted so far. That's good.
I still can't vote.
Who is that that's saying they can't vote?
Laura,
Laura. Oh, okay. How did you get to be a co-host again?
I don't know.
Try now.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
So, and Betsy, since I already voted, do you want to make me a co-host again?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, we voted on Wayne's computer, so it's times 2.
Okay, so we have 15 of 17 people voting. I know Tom won't be able to vote in our thing, and there's maybe one other person who can't vote. I don't know. 16 of 7. Yeah, no, I think we're done. Is there anybody that's still not voted yet? Okay, I'm going to share the results. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. So it looks as if we have firm support for voting in elections, climate change, and race and social justice committees. We have good support for the standing committees, which that's not even, we shouldn't have even voted for those, sorry. And the scholarship committee and the Meet the Members events. The two that are a little on the low side are Housing and Homelessness Committee and Civil Discourse Committee. And I would say that the Civil Discourse Committee has had a hard time the last couple of years because it hasn't worked well virtually. And once the college goes back to in-person classes, it will be much more effective for us to explore different ways of doing civil discourse or working with the students on the campus. I know that we have in the past also done voter registration on the campus. And as a matter of fact, well, never mind, I won't say that, never mind. So there we have other ways that we can interact and engage the students in conversation. But I think it is a committee that has been kind of on hold. We did a healthcare panel with another healthcare group, and that was in person, but not very many people showed up because of COVID. So I think the Civil Discourse Committee will probably be waiting for it to go back into person before it gets real active. And then the Housing and Homelessness Committee, it really does need to have members who are interested in working on that. And so we'll see about that. But it looks as if, I don't know, Tom, it doesn't seem like I can get people not to be enthusiastic about all the things we're doing. So we'll probably keep on doing most of the things we're doing. And I must say, you guys are doing an excellent job. So let me see, I'm going to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Close
That's it. If I could just make a brief.
Yes, Tom.
I just want to say it's awesome what you guys are doing. It really is. You get that whole team. You're wonderful. And I hope you don't burn out doing so much, but you all seem to be enjoying what you're doing. So that's a very good sign. It's great.
In case you don't know, Tom Carson is our advisor, our mentor for our local league. And he's married to this woman named Chris Carson, who used to be like president of some national organization. Was it the League of Women Voters US? I think she was, yeah. Anyway, so we're very, very lucky to have a mentor who has these extra strings and extra resources that he can call upon.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm only 10 minutes over time, but I want to say thank you. I think we have come up with our recommendations for the National League and our recommendations to present to the membership at our June annual meeting to see if the rest of the membership buys into it. If they don't, doesn't really matter whether they do or not. And before I end, before we adjourn, I would like to share one more screen with you, which is an event that we will be giving. The Chalice Community Forum events happen on Friday nights, and this is February 18th at 7 p.m. And Maddie and I will be doing a second go around of our presentation that we did last Saturday to a local community group on voting rights in 2022, brief history, the current climate, and where we're going from here and just beyond voting rights. And you can sign up for this, and I will send this flyer to everybody. There's and I'll send the actual link rather than just having it be active in the document, so that you can sign up for it and join us. It's a Zoom meeting, and it's on March 18th. And with that, is there anybody else who would like to share any other insights, thoughts, comments? Unmute yourself, whatever.
I just want to thank you for a great job. And I'm so impressed by that presentation you're going to make on the 18th of March, not February. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is the 18th of March. Yes.
That's
yes.
great.
Oh, sorry.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maddie and I had a lot of fun with it, I think.
Yeah, it was really fun. Betsy did most of the work, but I'm a good reviewer and I answered some questions.
It was definitely a teamwork effort.
Very good team.
And we're going to take the one that we did, I think it was on the 18th.
In February.
Yeah, February. And then we're going to take it and stretch it out a little bit. Although we were able to stretch it out a little bit in that meeting too, because one of their speakers didn't show up. But uh-oh. Did everybody freeze?
No, you're doing fine.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My internet's unstable again. But anyway, so we're gonna probably, refine it a little bit, maybe add a few things to it. But it was very, very educational for us to put it together. And, and that's part of the fun of doing all of this is, is that how much we learn.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, well, that's it then. Thank you very much for participating in our program planning.
Betsy, for being such a great president.
Absolutely.
Agree.
Yeah, thank you, Betsy.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, great.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom, for showing up too. Bye.
Bye.
Betsy,
Yes.
I had a question that I put in the chat.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I think it would probably go to you and then to the board.
Oh, okay. So about one person or committee named to be the liaison for contacting and scheduling outside groups. So race and social justice will take that on.
Okay.
That's what they're going to be. But it's as they say, we're supposed to do everything with our diversity, equity, and inclusion lens on, and including young people, not only just minorities or, different groups, young people is part of that inclusion. So every single one of our committees is supposed to look at their activities through that lens of how can we engage other entities. And I honestly think that our relationship with Cal State Channel Islands is so good that we can do other activities until we have a chance of going back to doing the civil discourse in person. So we can probably do some sort of voter registration or, even work with them.
Well, I just didn't want, if we were interested with civil discourse in having the youth council work with us, a couple of members.
Sure.
Would we contact them directly, or would we go through the Race and Social Justice Committee?
Oh, no. I think we could contact them directly. Yeah, I don't think that, no, I just said, if there were activities that were specifically related to trying to reach out to other organizations just to make a connection, they might be doing that. But no, absolutely, we can do that as any of the committees can do that as part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion lens.
Okay. Thank you. Good
Yeah,
night.
you're welcome. Thank you, Sharon,
night.
for saying something. Bye, Carol. Bye, Pat.
Bye-bye.
And if you do it.